History is full of marvels and wonders, but sometimes the past reveals its darker, scarier side. What would you do if you stumbled across a bog body so well preserved that you could still see the look of horror on its face? Or imagine finding a mass grave of headless Viking warriors, their skulls piled separately from their bodies. These are the kinds of terrifying discoveries we're counting down today, taking you from eerie echoes of forgotten rituals to bone-chilling reminders of past pandemics. Stay with us as we journey through the top 10 scary historical discoveries, starting with unsettling mysteries and ending with the downright horrifying secrets hidden beneath our feet. Let's get started at number 10. Imagine stumbling upon perfectly preserved human bodies buried for thousands of years in a swamp. That's the eerie reality of the Bog Bodies, one of the scariest historical discoveries ever. Found across the wetlands of northern Europe, especially in Denmark, Ireland, and the UK, these ancient remains are so well preserved that their hair, skin, and even fingerprints can still be seen today. But how did they get there, and why are they so haunting? These bog bodies date back to the Iron Age, around 2,000 to 2,500 years ago. The cold, acidic, and oxygen-poor conditions of the bogs acted like a natural refrigerator, preserving them almost perfectly. What's even more chilling are the signs of violent deaths many of these bodies bear. Broken bones, slit throats, and evidence of ritual strangulations make researchers believe they might have been victims of human sacrifice. Take Tolland Man, for example. Discovered in Denmark in 1950, his face looks so peaceful, you'd think he was just asleep, except for the noose still wrapped around his neck. Or Grauballe Man, with a deep slash across his throat, still vivid after thousands of years. These haunting clues suggest these people were killed as offerings to the gods, or possibly executed for crimes. But the real mystery? We'll never truly know the exact rituals or reasons behind their deaths. The bogs keep their secrets tightly sealed. So next time you pass by a misty marsh, think of the bog bodies lying beneath, eternally locked in a silent, ancient story. Coming up next up at number 9, imagine walking into a dark, dusty museum, and you're met with one of the most terrifying sights in history, the screaming mummies of Guanajuato. These mummies are unlike any others you've seen. With twisted, frozen faces contorted in agony, they look like they were trapped in the middle of a desperate, blood-curdling scream. The story begins in Guanajuato, Mexico, during a cholera outbreak in the 1800s. Many people died suddenly, and the fear of the disease spreading was overwhelming. But there was a twist. If the families of the deceased couldn't pay a burial tax, the bodies were exhumed, and what the workers found was haunting. When they dug up the mummies, some had expressions so horrific, they seemed to tell a story of unimaginable suffering. The legend says that some of these poor souls were buried alive by mistake, clawing and gasping for breath until they died in the darkness. While there's no scientific proof of this, the thought alone sends shivers down the spine. What's even stranger, the dry climate of Guanajuato naturally mummified the bodies, preserving these ghastly expressions for the world to see. Today, these eerie remains are displayed in the Museum of the Mummies in Guanajuato, attracting brave souls who want a glimpse of this chilling piece of history. Up next, at number 8, imagine digging into the past and uncovering a scene straight out of a horror story. In 2009, archaeologists working near Weymouth in Dorset, England, stumbled upon a mass grave unlike any they had ever seen. It was filled with the skeletons of 54 decapitated men, all buried together in a chilling, almost ritualistic fashion. But these weren't just any men, they were Vikings. The mystery unfolded as experts examined the remains. The bodies showed signs of brutal execution. Heads had been hacked off with swords, and many of the skeletons bore deep cuts and gashes, hinting at a violent end. What made it even more eerie was that the skulls had been separated from the bodies and placed in a pile, as if arranged deliberately. So, who were these headless warriors, and why had they been executed so mercilessly? The most likely explanation is that these were a group of Viking raiders captured by the local Anglo-Saxons sometime around the year 1000 AD. The Vikings were known for their fierce invasions of England, but this time, it appears they were the ones who faced the sharp end of the sword. Some historians suggest this mass execution was an act of retribution, a message from the Anglo-Saxons to any other would-be invaders. The grave serves as a haunting reminder of a brutal time where even the fiercest warriors could meet a terrifying end. Next up at number 7, have you ever wondered what lurks beneath the bustling streets of modern European cities? Beneath our feet lie chilling reminders of one of history's most devastating pandemics, the Black Death. When archaeologists and construction workers dig into Europe's past, they sometimes make a horrifying discovery: plague pits. These mass graves, hastily dug in the 14th century, contain the remains of tens of thousands of people who perished during the Black Death, a plague that wiped out nearly half of Europe's population. The Black Death wasn't just a disease, it was a nightmare. nightmare that swept across continents with terrifying speed. Cities were overwhelmed, with bodies piling up faster than they could be buried. So desperate times called for desperate measures. Entire neighborhoods were turned into mass burial grounds. These plague pits were filled quickly and then covered over, sometimes forgotten for centuries. Imagine this: you're walking through London or Paris today, and under a popular shopping street, there could be an ancient graveyard packed with victims of a deadly pandemic. Even more terrifying, scientists studying the skeletons have found traces of Yersinia pestis, the bacteria responsible for the Black Death. These bacteria were capable of spreading horror so intense that some feared it marked the end of humanity. Up next at number 6, beneath the bustling streets of Paris lies one of the most eerie and chilling historical discoveries ever made, the Catacombs of Paris. A place that seems straight out of a horror story, yet it's as real as it gets. Back in the late 18th century, Paris had a serious problem. The city's cemeteries were overflowing, with bodies piling up, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. A grim solution was needed. Authorities decided to transform miles of ancient, abandoned limestone quarries into a massive underground ossuary, a final resting place for over 6 million souls. Yes, 6 million. Bones were painstakingly arranged in haunting patterns, forming walls of skulls and femurs. Today, you can still visit these bone-laden tunnels stretching for hundreds of miles, but not all the catacombs are open to the public. The deeper, off-limits sections are filled with tales of mystery and fear. Some explorers have gone in and never returned. Imagine being down there, where it's pitch dark and silent, with only the whisper of your breath echoing off walls lined with skulls. People have reported hearing strange noises, feeling an unseen presence, or even seeing ghostly apparitions. Legends say the spirits of the restless dead still wander these corridors, angry about being disturbed. Halfway there, at number 5, did you know that some of England's darkest secrets are hidden inside its caves? Deep underground, carved into stone, are eerie markings known as witches' marks. These symbols were etched centuries ago to ward off evil spirits, curses, and even witches themselves. But here's the creepy part: these marks weren't made in random places. Many were found in caves like Cresswell Crags, a mysterious gorge on the border of Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. These caves weren't just homes to ancient people. They were believed to be gateways to the underworld. Archaeologists have uncovered hundreds of these symbols, including circles, lines, and even intricate designs. One of the most chilling theories? They weren't just made out of superstition. People truly believed they were fighting off something dark and dangerous lurking in the shadows. Imagine venturing into the pitch-black caves, carving these symbols with trembling hands, praying they'd be enough to keep the unknown at bay. Were they protecting themselves from imagined fears or something real? Next up at number 4, imagine stumbling upon a mass grave underwater. This is the tomb of the Sunken skull, one of the eeriest discoveries in history. Hidden beneath a Swedish lake, archaeologists uncovered a Stone Age site filled with human skulls. But here's the twist: some skulls had stakes driven through them. The scene was straight out of a nightmare. What were these people's fates? Ritual sacrifice? Brutal warfare? No one knows for sure. But their remains date back nearly 8,000 years. The waterlogged conditions preserve tools, bones, and haunting clues of a long-lost ritual. Adding to the mystery, the skulls were placed deliberately, suggesting an ancient ritual of death and remembrance, or perhaps warning. It's a chilling reminder of how ancient humans lived and died. Could this lake hold more dark secrets? Or is this ritual the tip of an iceberg we'll never fully uncover? Next up at number 3, did you know some of history's scariest discoveries involve vampire burials? Imagine digging up a centuries-old grave, only to find a skeleton with a brick shoved in its mouth or an iron stake through its chest. These weren't random acts. They were desperate measures. During times of plague and fear, people believed certain individuals would rise from the dead as vampires, spreading terror and disease. Archaeologists have uncovered these chilling burials across Europe, from Poland to Italy, with signs of rituals meant to trap the undead. A famous case? A 16th century Venetian woman buried with a brick forced between her jaws, meant to stop her from biting anyone. While modern science dismisses the vampire myth, these graves reveal just how far fear and superstition drove people. Could you imagine being so terrified of the dead coming back to life? Sometimes, the past is scarier than any horror movie. Coming up next, at number 2, deep in Belize lies the Cave of the Crystal Skulls, a site as mysterious as it is terrifying. This ancient Mayan cave, hidden in the jungle, contains human remains, including skulls that seem to glow eerily under torchlight. Archaeologists believe these bones were from human sacrifices performed to appease Mayan gods. The most unsettling part? The victims were often children. Inside, explorers have found ceremonial artifacts, blood-stained altars, and even remnants of ancient rituals. rituals. Every step feels like walking through a scene of ancient horror, frozen in time. The chilling silence, the spectral glow of the skulls. It's no wonder the Cave of the Crystal Skulls is called one of the scariest archaeological discoveries ever. Would you dare to explore its depths? At last but not least, did you know the discovery of China's Terracotta Army came with whispers of a deadly curse? Back in 1974, farmers unearthed these ancient clay soldiers while digging a well, but what they didn't know was that they were stepping into a tomb shrouded in mystery and danger. Legend has it, the army was built to protect Emperor Qin Shi Huang in the afterlife. Disturbing their slumber? A big no-no. Soon after the discovery, strange misfortunes plagued the farmers. Crops failed, families fell ill, and their village was left in ruin. Even scientists involved in the excavation reported freak accidents and unexplained illnesses. Coincidence or a warning from the past? The curse remains a chilling part of this archaeological marvel. So would you dare to uncover the secrets of the Terracotta Army?